Welcome to Currency Shift, the podcast where we showcase and share insights from first, only, and the disruptive. These are people who are creating new lanes and carving new paths for women, people of color, and diversity and inclusion. My name is Sade Simone. Let's get started.
Particularly because if they're anything of a reflection of you, we are really going places. So I'm very excited. Thanks everyone who's listened, who's watched, and thanks to your crew for helping us make me sound good.
Thank you, Clayton.
All right.
That was good, man.
Oh, I'm glad you.
That was
put
good.
nicely.
How you feel?
I feel great.
Yeah.
I love being able to sit with you anytime, as you know. So I'm. My father would say I'm like a pig in slop. Happy.
Just happy. Yeah, so you bring up a lot of good points. This portion, we just talk to the camera until you get tired of drinking champagne. But you bring up a very good point about infrastructure moving, like it's like 4.0. That is a great concept to really, really think about, and then having a seat at the table. But how do my generation and the generation behind me, like, have a seat at the table? Like, how do we bridge that divide between the haves and the haves not?
It has to be deliberate, right? So it has to be deliberate. If you think about all the components of that, right? So government's going to have to be in the conversation. The private sector has to be in the conversation. Nonprofits have to be in the conversation. You know, you need people in the conversation that represents all of us. Yeah. So,
Caleb, you want some more?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay.
you know, a typical example is I sit on the mayor's broadband task force.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we advise the mayor that as we put together a task force, let's ensure we hear from downtown, uptown, all the different boroughs. Make sure we have women and men and people with what some others might call alternative lives and everything else like that. Get them all at the table.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. Listen, let's get left-handed people at the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's get right-handed, left-handed people. I mean, my point is that this is not a zero-sum game.
Right.
If we do the right thing and everyone's voice is heard, a perfect example is Intel.
Mm-hmm. I
was talking to the chairman of Intel, big shot, right? And he was telling me that he had a team of engineers that were working on wireless charging devices, and all the engineers were men.
Ooh.
And they were moving fast though. They were like getting shit done. But one of them dropped out, and they introduced a woman into the team. Entire process slowed, but the entire design changed for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity is not always easy,
Right.
but there's a better outcome. And the CEO of Intel realized that. He's like, I got to start making my teams more diverse. It's like, yeah, you'll get a better outcome. It's a little tougher.
Yeah.
You got to get past whatever nonsense people have been trained to think. But essentially, a different perspective doesn't distract.
Yeah, it's like added value.
It's
right?
completely added value and added reality, because if you come from the South Side of Chicago and you meet with somebody that's coming from, Cambridge, Massachusetts, who knows what outcome could come of that? It could be great. If the Cambridge person only talks to the Cambridge people, then we're going to get the same Cambridge results.
Exactly.
If the South Side Chicago girl just going to hang with the South Side Chicago girls and boys, we're going to get the same South Side Chicago results.
So it's like everybody has to open up.
So that's why you need to take advantage. You and your peers and those coming behind you, take advantage of these social media platforms for that reason. Not for, just, what food to eat and what place to see and all that stuff. That's good stuff too. But if those platforms can help bring people's voices to the table, Trump supporters, Obama supporters, if we can all get to that table and think of our common humanity, see, there's really a lot more in common than we have different as people in the world, really, not just America.
Everybody has a common thread.
There's a common thread there. So if we focus a little bit on those, but you still have everyone coming with their various unique area of life, we'll get a better outcome and a better infrastructure that will perhaps be future-proof. And if you can do that, you guys will go down in history.
Yeah.
we're setting it up as much as we can. We've put a lot of tools in place. We've made technology that much more accessible. But this is another 50 years that this has to happen.
Yeah. I look at it as like exactly what you said. Is like, how are you using these platforms and your connections on these platforms to really like move your mission forward, your company forward, or reaching back to help somebody else come forward, right?
Yeah.
Like I switched up my Instagram from just following like people who travel all the time and looks like they're having fun to people who are actually sharing some type of knowledge on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me perspective where I'm seeing all sides. And
Well,
I think that's important for you to see all sides. Like, it doesn't matter if I supported Obama, I still want to understand, like, what is going on with Trump, why people like Trump, and understand what kind of enables them to say, yes, I'm going to hit this button, right? So I want to hear everybody so that I can have a better understanding of, like, what's going on. And it's the same with tech. Like, you have to listen to all sides of tech. There was this thing with Apple when they had came out with the emojis, you know? And because a lot of people put it out on Instagram, they put it out on Twitter about diversifying the emojis and including everyone, right? The color spectrum and all of that. That's what led to that change.
Mm.
But if they had hired a diverse team in the first place, that conversation may or may not have happened.
Well, I couldn't agree more. This is all about your values in some ways.
Yes.
But we do have common ground here. I mean, that's what's fascinating to me, is that all of the, if you really think about it, and we may not have enough time to go here, but if you really think about it, most of opinions are learned behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. So all of this sort of, I think this, is because somebody taught you that.
Right.
It's not necessarily innate to hate. You don't be born to hate people. Someone has to tell you that you have to hate someone, you know what I mean, in order for you
or
to
dislike them.
Right. This is a learned behavior, and it's been around a long, long time, right? So if I went over to a really hardcore, even if I went over almost to a like Ku Klux Klan member's house, you know, this is maybe a gross way of saying it, but I have found that almost every household I've gone to, no matter who they are or where they come from, if we get past the learned behavior within the first couple of minutes, I get the same question when I was in Melbourne, Australia, when I was in Dubai, when I was in Japan, when I was in Sweden, when I was in Switzerland, when I was in the Dominican Republic, when I'm in Georgia, when I'm in Chicago. I get the same question. Are you hungry? Almost everywhere I go. If I went to Caleb's house right now, after his mom would go, who the hell is this? She would say, hey, are you hungry? And the point is, we got much more in common than we have in different. And most of the differences that we tend to hang on are made up.
Yeah.
They're just made up.
That's true. I was trying to, like, close this on there.
I don't know why you have an obsession with that. We're going to finish that bottle. You ain't got to worry about that.
Yeah, like, I mean, it is what it is. I was trying to, like, preserve the bubbly, but it's fine. But, yeah, that's true. Are you hungry? That's interesting. So, like, when you travel around the world, that's the question?
That's the question. That's the question. There's a couple of common questions. Do you want to see anything? I mean, is there anything you want me to, you know, or directions? If you go, I got lost in Tokyo once. I can't speak Japanese. My brother can, but I can't speak Japanese, and somebody help me. No matter where you go, you can drop me in the middle of the Middle East, and somebody will help me.
Yeah.
I remember being in Hawaii and got stuck on a beach because I was trying to take a Jeep out on the sand, and the sun was going down, it was getting dark, and I'm in my little Jeep, and I'm like, got stuck on the beach, and I'm thinking, I'm going to die here.
You trying to do that thing with the sand.
I started doing all that stuff. I'm digging out the wheels, I'm putting wood under it, and I'm going, oh, damn, not only I might get killed here, but I'm going to be on the hook for this Jeep. And some guy came out of nowhere. It was a dream, right? Just out of bushes with his shirt off and everything. And he goes, what's the matter? I said, I can't get out of here. This guy got in the Jeep and pushed a button and it rolled right out. His city boy didn't know that it was four-wheeler. That you had to click a button to get on a four-wheel. But the point is that the universe brings you great people.
Yeah, that's true.
No matter where you are. And I've been like in a lot of places and sometimes unusual circumstances. And someone's there to help. This idea that we're so divided or so different is all made up. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, man, it's propaganda. It is definitely propaganda.
And it's learned behavior, as I mentioned.
Yes.
To think otherwise. You have to be taught that. I grew up in a way that I wasn't taught that, right? So if I would have been taught that, I might have a different perspective.
You probably would have been on a different path.
I probably would be like Huey P. Newton, man. I'd be out there with a rifle walking down the streets of San Francisco. But the point is that I didn't grow up that way. So I learned very early that everybody was the same. I knew that from like day one because I was on a military base where everyone was from everything. I had Filipino friends and Samoan friends and English and Italian. It didn't matter where they would come from. And in fact, a lot of places in California don't even walk around going, hey, I'm Jewish or hey, I'm Italian. Nobody goes and does that. And so your measurement is, you're Brittany. That's all you are to me. I don't look at you and go, oh, she's this, that, and the other. Because as soon as you say you're black or you're white, I have to now assign things to that. I have to go, because we've defined you as this is what you must be all about.
Right.
That's not nearly close to reality. That's just fake stuff made up. In some ways, maybe to make life easier, make order of things. But it's the very thing that creates a divide. Because people who don't read on and move on or go deeper will just believe that. You're black, so you must know how to dance.
Yeah.
You must. I've actually heard people say stuff like that. You know, you must eat this. You know, you must watch that. It's like, no.
No, actually.
Right, exactly. You know, and it's amazing to me. And like I said, I've been all over the place, and it's the same. I know a Brittany just like you that lives in Canada right now. I know a Brittany just like you that lives in Japan right now. There are similar personality traits even amongst people internationally.
Yes.
The A type, the laid-back type, this type. You can find these types anywhere in the world. So this idea that we're so different is just, it's been really somewhat motivating me to continue to do what I do, which is just give people access and exposure.
Yeah.
Then let them go do what they got to do.
I think that was the biggest thing for me coming from the south side of Chicago. Like, all I saw was black people. And the only people that I saw that were white were on television. And my first experience seeing poor white people was the Roseanne show, right? Like, early Roseanne. Like, I'm talking like 90s, 80s Roseanne. More so 90s Roseanne. And when I moved to St. Paul, Minnesota, that was like really different because now I'm seeing a whole spectrum of diversity. Hmong, Cambodian, I learned the difference. White people, Spanish people. It was just like a eye-opener to what actually is out there. You know, because my whole little world was Southside Chicago. But when we moved, it was like, wow, okay, there are more people, there are like countries. So it was like, when I moved to St. Paul, Minnesota, my mom exposed me to not only a variety of people, but she also exposed me to like higher learning education, right? So she instilled in me at a younger age, you need to go to college. So because college is your access to a better life at that time, it was really, really disciplined for me to do my homework. And I knew the reason why I needed to get good grades. I understood why I needed to have my brother and not be afraid to ask him for help. You know, it was because she exposed me to higher education, and she actually forced my brother. She didn't have to force him. He wanted to go to college anyway, but he went to Notre Dame, right? So it was like seeing that happen. If I had not seen him go to college, like a really good school, if she had not exposed me to the plan that she had set for me, or if my dad, who's an Iota Phi Theta, if he hadn't exposed me to like Greek life, you know, I would have never known that there are levels to blackness, right? Because I would have never known that there were levels, right? Because when I moved to North Carolina, that's when I learned about racism, right? I didn't learn about racism in Chicago. I didn't learn about racism in St. Paul, Minnesota. I learned about that in North Carolina when I was in school, and I saw how different the white class was with the black classes. I saw the difference in how they lived and how the black people lived. And then I saw how they treated each other, right? And if it wasn't for my father, like, exposing me to Greek life and showing me the different levels that you can see blackness, I would have thought that we were just marginalized in one specific, like, poverty or middle class, right?
Well, think of those people who didn't get that epiphany that you had.
Exactly.
Right? They're still stuck in where you might have been stuck.
Exactly.
And that's what's creating some of the vitriol that we see sometimes through media and other lenses. Is that these people must be like this, It's like Bill Maher says sometime on his show, and I certainly say it a lot, which is there's no such thing as the other. As soon as you say there's an other, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, who are the other? I'm really curious, like, who is the other? The other is someone who's not like you, and your definition of the other means that they're marginalized or they're not fully a part of society. There's some level of wrong that we may or may not be able to define about them. There's no such thing as the other. And if we can all get past that, I'm telling you, we're halfway home.
And that's the thing that I love about, like, this, is because, like, we have our focus with how we decide on the guests, right? Like, the focus is first, only, or disruptive, right? And the reason why it's those three categories is because when you're the first, you've had to go through so many levels to get where you are as the first, and you've dealt with so many things. It is, like, amazing to hear that story and to share it with others, because you might be the first, but nobody knows it. Right?
Let me give you an example of something like that happened to me. So when I was at Showtime, I started in Universal City in California, and I'm up on the 37th floor of this luxury executive.
That is a great view.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Except for earthquakes. But other than that, it was just great. But I was the only basically African-American guy on this 37th floor.
Yeah, only.
Yeah. And it was, like, really cool to be there and be accepted. And I got very involved with, the National Association of Minorities in Cable and tried to bring much more diversity into Showtime. But while I was there was this old black guy that would come every couple of days to the building and shine shoes.
Yeah.
And this guy, like, I was there for some time, and nobody would talk to him. He just came, shining shoes, and kept it pushing.
Wow.
And so one day I said, I'm going to just talk to this guy. I mean, geez, like, I'm getting my shoes shined too, but I want to talk to this guy. So I said, sir, what's your name? He goes, my name's Joe. I said, listen, why are you walking around here shining shoes? And this guy, I'm 24 or whatever I am, this guy pulls out a wad of cash, and he goes, I shine shoes in the morning, and I play golf in the afternoon. Ooh. And I said, what? And so we strike up this relationship.
Yeah.
And I had never played golf.
Ah, okay.
You get where I'm going?
Yeah.
So I, as I'm talking to him, one day he says, hey, man, you should come to my house. I was like, Joe, you got a house? It's shining my shoes. This guy had a house. I have a dingy little apartment. I'm like, what is going on here? And it turns out he actually didn't even live that far from where I lived. I was in a dingy little apartment, but he's in this nice house. So I go over to his house, and we're sitting it up. He goes, hey, let's go out to my garage. I was like, wow. So he opens up his garage, and Brittany, he handed me my first golf clubs.
Wow.
And I have those clubs to this very day. And the point about it is you can't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
And everybody matters. And that man came through my life and changed it with one simple gesture. Joe was a Hall of Fame second base baseball player.
What?
In the Negro Leagues. Here's a man that was shining shoes and nobody talked to him.
Yeah.
that had so much more success than any of us all together.
Yeah, I could ever imagine.
Put his daughters through medical school. They're all doctors and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Well, here's a guy you would overlook every single day. We cannot do it moving in the future. You don't know who will change another person's life
Yeah, that's true.
if you judge them simply on the way they look. If we get past that kind of bullshit, it will be such a better world.
That
We
is
get
an
past that
amazing
nonsense.
story.
Yeah, well, it was. You see, I get misty about it because it was just really life changing. It's the thing I do is play golf now. That's all I do. I've got tons of clubs since then, but I still have that very first set of clubs to remind myself to never take anyone for granted.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. I like that a lot because, like, a lot of people, they don't talk to, like, their cleaning services. They treat their executive assistants like trash, like, you know, just do this and do that. But I've made some of the best relationships and had the best insights from executive assistants, from the cleaning people, from the janitors, from my Uber drivers, right?
Well, learning is every second. You're learning right now. I'm learning right now. Collab crew, everybody's learning right now, in real time. So think about that. Why would you marginalize someone because maybe they didn't finish college or maybe they didn't finish high school? Maybe they dropped out real early and believe that in some way or another they don't have anything to offer. That's crazy. They have a life, so they're living every day and they're coming across the situations and they learn from those and they can share that information if it's an open channel to do so.
Yeah.
So you cannot marginalize people just because they don't have the
look or the feel.
look or the feel or the track record that you yourself may have.
Exactly.
It's so important to make sure that everyone's voice is valued.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing. Like, some of the people, like the Issa Raes and the Loveys, what I appreciate about them is they're bringing to the forefront, they're kind of demystifying Africa, right? And, like, what people from Africa look like and what they can achieve and what they're capable of doing. Because, you know, in the States, it's like the only thing that we're kind of like given as media images of Africa is that sad song, you know what I'm talking about? And you had to donate $1 or 10 cents. So from me being like 12 years old to now, those were the images that I had.
They're all starving, they're all living on dirt roads,
flies.
And they live in tents and all this other stuff.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing to see them take control of the images that are portrayed and how they're displayed in the bigger scheme of things, and they're just leading and running things. And it's beautiful to see because it brings forth more pride for all people, right? And it kind of like helps to kind of make you want to do more research beyond what you see on TV.
We are an isolated country in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Right? America is hard to get to, essentially. We have our own mass land, if you will, whereas if you're in Europe or in Africa or India, there's so much land that you hard to get from one place to the other. So there's a lot more connectivity, even though there's, you know, unrest and all those type of things that happen in those areas. We, as Americans, sometimes, I believe we sometimes are missing out on the cultural advantage that we could have. Because we've had a nation built on immigration, we have a lot of culture here.
Yes, we do.
Well, we shouldn't stop there. We should continue to connect with that all throughout the world. And when we do start to think, you know, everyone should be like us, we're starting to lose who we are. Because what we started this country was started on one simple principle: how to make life better. That was all it was started on. We didn't like what the hell was going on in Britain or the United Kingdom and all that kind of stuff. We didn't like the hell what was going on in other parts of the world. So people flooded here to go, I'm getting away from this nonsense. I want to start new and make what? My life better. And that's what this country was built on. And other countries envy that, not the cars we drive or the shows we produce. They envy the fact that it's the land of opportunity. It's an opportunity to have a better life. however you define that, right? America was founded on that simple principle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've had a lot of crappy stuff that has happened since that sometimes has been challenging. But even during the rough slavery days or segregation days or any of these other sort of, women's suffrage, all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff was still built on that principle of how do we make life better. Some of that principle came with those type of things, which was we can make life better if we have people that can do the work. We can make life better if women ain't got no voice. There's all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the main principle, and I say that because technology is somewhat mystifying to people.
Mm-hmm.
A senior citizen, I don't know what. Technology is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing the exact same thing that we founded the country on. It's trying to make life better.
Exactly.
More efficient, more smart, all these type of things.
Mm-hmm.
They're just tools. We would do it anyway if technology never developed the way it had. So
Mm-hmm.
the more we start focusing on common humanity, the idea that we all just want to have a better life, it's very few places, in fact, there's no place on earth
Mm-hmm.
where you can go where someone in that space isn't thinking about their children, isn't thinking about themselves, isn't thinking about how to make life better.
Yeah.
If that has translated into war or has
Mm-hmm.
translated into some sort of negative stuff, it's generally because somebody has created the propaganda to make that happen.
Yes.
But if you strip them of that and put them in some controlled environment, they would be going, I just want a better life. I want to be able to pray the way I want to pray. I want to be able to kiss who I want to kiss. I want to do whatever I want to do. And the problem is, we don't want to honor that. We just want to go, well, I was told by this person
Mm-hmm.
that you must be, and that's what's silly.
What's holding us back.
There's nothing that person is doing that's hurting you.
Exactly.
So anyway, the goal here for this country, and I dare to say that in most countries, is that people just want a better life. And these places that are driven by government,
Mm-hmm.
it's not for us to judge.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, if you break it down to the individual household, they'd like to have food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
They would like for their kids to be happy. They'd like for their partner to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
They'd like to be buried happy. I mean, that's just what they want,
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. I was in China last year, this time. I was in China. And they have a very clear, because there's so many Chinese,
Yeah.
and because they look at their lives as 5,000 years, right? So they've been around a long time. So they know that. The Chinese really are connected to the 5,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
America doesn't have that, right? So America has a couple 300 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like whatever the years is. China looks at 5,000 years. And so what 5,000 years does for you is it says relationships matter.
Mm.
That's what 5,000 years will tell you. That's why the Chinese can be a little bit more thoughtful of how their relationships are formed. They when I was doing a deal in China, they were like, why do you need a contract?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because they have 5,000 years of, if I do something wrong, the entire country knows my family is destroyed.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So it's just the pressure of, and the learning is that you should do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of America, and I'm not trying to promote any other country, but I am saying all of us have a role to play in making the world effective for everyone and helpful for everyone, even if we have different types of government structures, even if we eat different types of food, even if we buy certain things differently. At the end of the day, there's some core values there that are much stronger than the differences.
Mm. That's good. And I completely agree with you as far as, like, making everything better. And, like, time will tell.
Time will tell. And everyone has to get out of their own way.
Yeah.
You talk about these different folks that are trying to push things certain ways. When you have a social construct, which is all of what I've just described over the last 10, 15 minutes, when you have this social construct, there's actually two players in it. Not one, two players. Those who are promoting the social construct and those who are willing to accept the social construct. And when you have disruption in that,
Hold on, say that again.
those who promote the social construct
Okay.
and those who are willing to accept the social construct. So if
Okay.
the social construct says, you're black, so you're inferior, this person says, yes, I'm inferior.
Mm-hmm.
In order for it to work. Because if you say, I'm not inferior, that does exactly what part of your mission is right now. It causes disruption.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you disrupt? Someone's going to kick your ass. Someone's going to try to kill you.
Yep.
Someone will put you in jail. These are the people that happened in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
When they said, wait a minute. I should be able to vote like anybody else. I shouldn't be hassled at the polls.
Mm-hmm.
And the social construct was saying, no, we've agreed for a while now that you guys are marginalized and you have to go through hell to vote,
Mm-hmm.
and we ain't playing that. And some of us were like, hell no, I'm tired of this. We actually want to vote and get representation. So you got your ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
You got beat down. You went to jail. Some of you were killed.
Yeah.
But when that couldn't be sustained, eventually you got that goalpost moved.
Mm-hmm.
And when you move the goalpost, the objective of those who want to have that social construct says, we lost that one. Let's go to something else, like they can't have similar education.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, we'll accept that. We're going to bitch a lot about it, but we're going to accept that. And then you go, no, we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And you disrupt that. You get your ass kicked. You go to jail. You could be killed.
Yeah.
And you don't have the resources to necessarily kill anybody else. So, but that's not a sustainable model.
Yeah.
So the goalpost gets moved.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, you can't buy into the social construct. And people sometimes say to me, oh, Clayton, you don't believe in racism. That's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
Of course there's racism. Of course there's unfairness. Of course there's lack of access. Of course there's lack of exposure. But if you buy into it, if you say, I'm black, so I must be marginalized,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm black and I'm from the south side of Chicago, so I must be inferior.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy into that, which is the social concept, because we sort of buy into it. That's why we have all these black clubs and black this and black that.
Yeah.
It's because we are trying so hard to play that role, that we are in a deficit.
Mm-hmm.
If you get out of that thinking and go, wait a minute, this is bullshit, and they know it's bullcrap. Whoever's on the power side is going, they're really buying this? It's like, wow, they think we're smart? Yeah, they think we got more money? I'm not saying that kind of stuff isn't true. I'm just saying that in order to disrupt it, you have to get out of that comfort zone.
That's true.
So anyway.
Yeah, comfort zones are killers.
Mm.
Yeah.
See, I'm free. I'm free like any person should be, which is I don't have a love for wealth, and I'm no fear of death. That's the definition that Martin Luther King gave to freedom.
Mm.
When you lose the love for wealth and you have no fear of death. And that's where I am at in my life right now. It took me a long time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I love money, but I don't love it anymore like that.
Yeah.
I've had lots of it. I've got lots of material stuff. I get it. But I don't have a love for wealth the way some of us do, which is the root of evil in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly am not worried about, anything else. So I'm free from that perspective. No one can push me one way, right? Hey, Clayton, I got this kind of money for you. If you just come this way, I can entice you into this. I'm good. Hey, Clayton, you better do this or else you could die. You can't scare me like either way.
I
I'm
remember the first kind of you on the panel that I was exposed to, and I think that's when I was like, that's my guy right there. Like, we're going to be best friends forever. Because you sat on a panel with, like, Time Warner Cable, with, like all these media execs, and you sat there and said, listen, I'm going to be as raw as I can because I don't have to report to any company, any CEO. I don't have anybody telling me that I can or cannot do something or say something. So you're going to get the absolute transparent truth from me. And when you said that, I was like, yes. Like that to me kind of opened my eyes to the level that I wanted to strive for, because at the time I was trying to do like Ursula Burns, like start off as an intern and then become CEO. I was trying to run like all distribution and media content, to change the narrative. But when you said that, it just kind of like snapped in me, like, no, like that is freedom. You have nobody to say, we have to run this by PR first before you can speak. You have no one saying, yeah, I saw the video, we're going to have to dock your pay for 30 days because you basically put us in the deficit by leaking information. Like, it was to me like, this guy has like a strategy and he's going to be truthful and honest and he's free.
And you've done the same thing since. I mean, you still worked for companies as I did. In my early career and learned on other people's dime. But there is a certain amount of drive in some of us where we want to control our destiny and we want to have that sort of responsibility. It's not easy and it's not for everyone. There are people built, literally, work in a corporate environment. I get it. And some of them will do very, very well. I was one of those people a lot of the time on that path. But inside of me, I knew I was an entrepreneur, and it wasn't for me to be in a position to say, hey, I don't have to listen to anybody, but it put me in a position and on the road towards complete freedom, to your point. And I wanted to share that. And the other thing we said that night was I worked for Viacom, and Sumner Redstone was famous for saying, content is king. And the other thing that stuck with you and me, which was when Clayton Banks said, that's cool, but actually data is king.
Exactly, yeah.
It's proven out, because you remember how long ago I said that
stuff.
Yeah,
that was like 2009, 2010.
It's proven out, and frankly, I would think even Sumner Redstone, who came up with Content King, would say that, because what's been tweeted, probably more so than almost any other tweet that has ever gone out from me, was a quote that I made at the Horowitz conference, which was, content, to make the point about why data is king and content is secondary, if you will.
Yeah.
I made the quote that content without data is clutter.
Yes.
And I don't know who's listening or watching, but content without data is clutter. I don't need to see a pantyhose commercial. Address it to those appropriately. So if you give me content that I have no interest in, then it's just clutter for me. But if you have enough information and intelligence and data and you can provide me a San Diego Charger helmet commercial, I'm like, oh, I got to watch that. I like the Chargers. So content without clutter. So I'm not saying content's not important. Content for me, content, the way I frame content, it's why people will come back.
Right.
So even if you have the data, if you put crappy content out there, I'm going to go, yeah, that helmet looks like whack. I'll never look at you guys again. But if you can create content that makes me want to come back, like a Shawshank Redemption or a Unusual Suspects or something like The Usual Suspect, those type of movies, and I start to learn more that these are going to come out on this particular channel, then I'm in. So content has a vital role to make things sustainable. But data has all the role to get you engaged.
And you know who I love that's really doing well with that? Netflix.
Netflix is revolutionary.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I used to tell the story that, even though it's a bad one now, I can't tell it that much anymore, but Kevin Spacey wanted to do that show. And he had shopped his show around all the regular networks, and they all were like, oh, Kevin Spacey, of course we want to work with you. I mean, this is when he was hot as hot ever.
Yeah.
Of course we want to work with you, whatever you want. He's like, well, good, I'd like to get this show. And I said, well, let's do a pilot. And he was like, well, how much is that going to cost me? He's like, all right, whatever, $1 million. Like, no, I don't want to do a pilot. He went, studio to studio.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional thing. Do a pilot. Let's test it out. Let's make sure it's going to, meet the audience's expectations, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He said no to all of them. He goes to Netflix. Netflix says, Kevin Spacey, wow, that's the biggest guy we've ever seen.
Yeah.
We'd love to do this. And he goes, well, I don't want to do a pilot. And they go, why would we do a pilot? We got data. We already know who's going to watch your show.
Exactly.
And that's how House of Cards got launched.
Yes. That is amazing. Well, thank you, Clayton. We are at our limited time, but this has been...
Can you believe it? Is anybody listening to me? Do you guys know who I am? I need another hour. All right? What is the matter with these people over here?
This has been fun.
This is a real shift, I got to tell you.
Yes. Thank you. How long was the...
Thank you for joining the conversation. To learn more about Currency Shift, go to currencyshiftnow.com. If you feel as though you meet the criteria for the first, the only, or the disruptive, send us an email at info@currencyshiftnow.com. Until next time, keep pushing, stay motivated, and stay encouraged.